Hi, I'm Steve Howe, real estate investor. I'm listening to the best podcast for entrepreneurs, the Mentor Me podcast. It's the Mentor Me podcast with my friend Eric Skibaris.
Welcome to the Mentor Me podcast with Eric Skibaris. Eric believes that if you desire to succeed in business, then learning from the people who are where you want to be is the fastest way to get there. The Mentor Me podcast is connecting mentors with mentees through interviews with some of the most interesting entrepreneurs as they guide us on a path to success. And now, here's Eric.
Hello and welcome. I am your host, Eric Skibaris. The Mentor Me podcast is dedicated to taking you on a journey with new successful entrepreneurs every episode and asking the questions we have all wanted to ask. The Mentor Me podcast is helping you grow your network of high achievers and better understand the idea of mentorship. Before we get into today's show, I want to let you know I just released my ebook titled Leveraging the Power of Mentorship, an entrepreneur's guide to finding, connecting, and growing with millionaire mentors. I wrote the book to help you find amazing mentors that will cut your learning curve in half and help you thrive at anything you do. You can get your free copy by signing up to my email list at mentormecommunity.com. Today's sponsor is Audible, who has more than 180,000 audiobooks and spoken word audio products. Get a free audiobook of your choice at mentormepodcast.com/book. So today we have Tim Grittani on the show. Tim, are you ready to do some mentoring?
I'm ready, yeah.
Let's do it. Tim is a full-time day trader specializing in penny stocks. He's one of Tim Sykes' millionaire students, starting with just $1,500 and achieving it all within 3 years. So Tim, tell us, when was your first ever business attempt?
Well, before trading, I was really into gambling for a while. I was a poker player. I was the guy who thought I could be the next amateur to win the World Series of Poker, make millions of dollars. And, pretty typical poker stories, some beginner's luck. And then luck caught up to me. I realized I really wasn't all that good of a poker player. So from there, I went into football betting. And football betting, I was successful with for a few years. And I think that was the first time I really ever had a business idea, because I was a member of a lot of forums and I ran a blog for a while where I would post my picks for free. And I had 2 or 3 seasons in a row where I was picking at 65% against the spread. And that was considered to be pretty good. So I had seen someone else who was running a business who did sort of similar to me, and they were making money off of their picks. They were selling them every week. So I thought to myself, okay, if I can get really consistent at this, prove that 3, 4, 5 years in a row I can pick these winners, maybe I can start charging for them too. So that was really the first idea I had. And I even went as far as to purchase a domain and build an actual website to try to kind of upgrade from the blog. But then that first season I had the actual website, that, again, same story. Luck caught up to me. All of a sudden I realized I really wasn't as good as I thought I was. So I had to shut that down pretty quickly. And that idea never really came into fruition.
Yeah, I actually have went through the similar phase in poker where I was thought I was going to be the next Daniel Negreanu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I had a buddy who I played with in high school, and he actually fulfilled this, and he went on and he got top 30 in the World Series of Poker. He won $300,000. Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. So now he's doing really well with it. But anyways, moving on. So, take us through your journey and what led into, eventually becoming a millionaire trader.
Yeah, it's funny because I never expected this. I never really set out with the goal of, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire at trading. Mm-hmm. It really was just kind of moving on to the next thing after the 2 gambling things that failed. I mean, the one thing that poker had in common with football betting and that those kind of have in common with trading is that it's all very strategy based. It's not just rolling a dice and a random number comes out. There still is an element of strategy to those. And so with trading, I guess it just kind of seemed like, at the time, I kind of remember thinking it seemed like grown-up gambling to me. It was, you can make a lot of money in the market. Everybody knows that. I think everybody has the one friend or the one person in their life that they know who's done quite well in the market. And I was a finance major in college at this point. I had about a year to go before I graduated. And I was getting to the point where I realized I didn't like a whole lot about finance. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. So I didn't want to change majors. I didn't want to have to stay in school for longer. So I figured if I'm going to stick with finance, the stock market just kind of seemed like a natural way to go. So,
yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, like, how did you come across, Tim Sykes, and what kind of convinced you to, become one of his students?
Right. So I guess I started trading on my own. The first thing I did was I opened a $500 account at some random brokerage that I found that I thought had fairly cheap commissions. And I just kind of treated it like gambling. I went in and I would just kind of just buy a random cheap ticker and say, okay, I'm going to sell this when it goes up. And I just thought it was that simple. And it only took a couple of weeks till I lost half of my account. I lost $250. So it was the same sort of thing where I said, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I stopped trading. I think I closed the account down. But then I went to forums. I started looking around, trying to find someone who looked reputable, somebody who I thought might be able to, first of all, pick consistent winners that I could maybe piggyback off of and make a little money myself, but also that I could then learn from. And in the forums, I never really found anybody. I never saw anyone who I thought looked reputable, which is probably a good thing. But I did come across one of Tim Sykes' ads there. And that ad really introduced me to the idea of what is a pump and dump, what's a stock promotion, basic technical analysis, and how to read a chart. And up till that point, I had just thought that charts were just squiggly lines, like with complete randomness. So it was all very new to me, and it really seemed like there was an edge there, because it sounded like penny stocks were so heavily manipulated. So I was pretty convinced by his pitch and found one of his services on sale. So I signed up to that and started watching video lessons and trying to learn.
So, like, what do you think, separates you from, the rest of, the thousands of students he has that, you were able to, make $1 million and plus from trading?
Right. Yeah. My story really is one of the more rare ones. You don't hear a lot of success stories in the stock market. I think the saying out there is that 90% of traders fail within 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I think that part of what helped differentiate me, and to be fair, I did fail at first too. I spent 3 months watching video lessons, paper trading, not putting any real money on the line. And then I dove in and started trying to trade on my own. And within 5 months of trading $1,500 of my own money, I basically lost all that money. And I guess part of what helped is, all the good traders I know, almost every millionaire trader I know has blown up their account at least once. That's a pretty similar story that everybody has, is the early mistakes that they made that they learned from, and then the ability to refund the account, go back in and try again. So I was fortunate because I worked a summer job at State Farm, and I had that money to refund my $1,500 portion of the account and give it one more try. I think that part of the reason I am more successful, or that my story is a little more unique to some of the other stories of subscribers, is because I pride myself in my ability to learn from my mistakes. I think that's one of the biggest things that influences a trader's success, is their ability to be really honest with themselves, to look at what they're doing and either say, okay, yes, this is working, or say, no, this is a bad strategy, I'm losing money like this, and then having the discipline to cut that out and stay away from that area.
What is it, what is it about penny stocks that you like as opposed to, other stocks?
I was originally drawn to penny stocks, and I still am drawn to the cheaper stocks because of the volatility. If you're playing something like Apple or Google, you're getting very little movement day to day, just a couple percent here and there. With these penny stocks, almost daily, you can find 2 or 3 stocks that run anywhere from 30 to 50%. And then there's opportunity to either play those on the upside buying, which is actually an area I'm not that good at, or once the run has exhausted itself and it starts to come back down, you can short sell. And that's the area that I've chosen to specialize.
So, take us through a typical day of a day trader.
Sure. Yeah. I wake up every morning probably about 45 minutes before market opens. So market open is 9:30 Eastern. I give myself about 45 minutes during pre-market just to wake up a little bit, see what's moving, and just kind of put a plan together. Mm-hmm. And then just from 9:30 until 4 Eastern, I'm in front of the computer for the most part. I'll walk away to my kitchen to get lunch or something like that. But I try to stay in front of it pretty much all day. I don't like being away from it. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to be able to watch tick by tick what the stock is doing that I choose to play. So yeah, I'm in front of it from market open until market close. And then at the end of the day, back when I first started trading, I would put in a lot of extra time where I'd be watching video lessons or I'd be tracking setups on spreadsheets that I thought I might have an edge, just kind of trying to give myself a little bit more of an edge and figure out, certain stocks tend to move certain ways consistently. But once I got better and, once I get kind of comfortable and find a strategy that's working, I tend to get away from the extra preparation a little bit. And nightly, I just need maybe 15 to 20 minutes to put together a watch list for the next day.
So, like that 9:30 to 4 o'clock range, are you like, on the computer, like looking at possible trades, or do you kind of already have a set plan going into that day?
Mm-hmm, yeah. So, that's part of what the watch list the prior night is for. I go ahead and I make that watch list. Usually it's about 5 to 10 tickers. And I found those tickers through usually a stock scanner. It's great. There's some awesome technology out there where you can say something like, find me all stocks that are up 20% on the day and have traded at least 1 million shares in volume. And then it'll just kick back to you, the 10 stocks in the market that fit that criteria. Mm. So, and then I just look at charts from there and we'll build a plan. So I have a general idea going into every morning when I wake up, what tickers I want to look at and what my plan for each one is. But then that pre-market time is where I'm really looking and seeing, okay, which stocks are moving in the direction that I want them to, which ones are setting up the best. And I'll use that time to narrow my focus a bit and pick really my favorite 2 or 3 that I want to try to trade right out of the gate.
Mm. So I wanted to kind of pose a scenario to you. Many people are, just looking to get out of their jobs, right? They don't like their jobs. They want, a way to get out. Uh-huh. So, say, someone needs, $4,000 a month to live, how much would you recommend they start with, and what first steps do you think they should take?
The first step I would definitely say to take, especially if you're in a situation where you maybe have a family even that you have to support, is you've got to make sure you have enough money saved up. You have to be able to live for a while without making any kind of consistent money. Mm-hmm. Because my time frame was my first trade, after learning from Tim Sykes and some of these basics, my first trade was May of 2011. I hadn't even gotten back to break even until November of 2011. And then I had my first big win. So it took me 6 months to have any kind of consistency at all. And this also goes along with what you said for why do I think I've had more of an opportunity to be successful than others. Because at the time, my expenses were very low. I had my family taking care of college for me. When I graduated, I got to go home and live at home and try trading full time for 3 months, try to kind of prove that I could do it. So I didn't really have these monthly bills to pay. And, on my successes, I didn't have to pull money out of my account every month and sort of get set back to square one. Because like I said, I was very fortunate. Mm. So if you're in that situation where you just want out of your job, that's something you need to plan for. Trading isn't something where you can just quit your job one day and the next day step into the trading world and be making obscene amounts of money. Mm-hmm. It's a long, slow, grinding process, and it takes a long time to get there, and there's a very steep learning curve. So, my biggest piece of advice to somebody looking to do that is make sure that you're set financially first and that you can go at least a year without a paycheck and be okay.
Mm-hmm. What about tools or any resources? What types of tools will we need to start trading?
Well, that kind of depends on the type of trader you want to be, I guess. I'd recommend everybody have a market scanner, kind of like I described earlier, mm-hmm. where you can, and there are free ones online. I use one called Equity Feed, which is probably $100 a month or something like that. And it just has a few more search features to help you narrow your search a little bit better. But my style of trading is purely based off of technical analysis. I'm interested in the charts. I'm interested in the patterns. I don't really care so much about the company and what they do and their details or anything like that. I really tell people that I trade patterns more than I trade stocks or companies. So if that's the kind of trader you want to be, if technical analysis is what makes sense to you, then you need to really study up on that. You need to make sure you have good charting software. You need to maybe read a couple books on candlestick charts and how to read them. That's a big one. There's also a feature that a lot of traders don't know about called level 2. Mm-hmm. And that shows market depth, where all the buyers and sellers are. It's a lot more, in detail than just looking at a Yahoo Finance quote where you just see what's the bid, what's the ask. This actually shows you if there's, a really big seller on a level 2 or a really big buyer. It just kind of gives you more information. So that's another thing that made a big difference to me when I first started trading and helped turn me from a losing trader into a winning trader is a few months in, I got level 2 and I couldn't believe I had been trading 3 months without it. I felt like I had been trading blind. So yeah, I mean, I think those are the essentials: good charting software, software that has level 2, and then some kind of charting software that works well, or a market scanner. I'm sorry, a market scanner.
So I seen that you have a new DVD coming out.
I do, yeah.
So I was wondering if you could kind of just talk to us about that and how it can help us.
Sure, absolutely. The DVD, it's an idea I had for a little while, but I don't like the idea of selling something that I feel like I can't put time into to make a really great product. And until recently, I hadn't had that time. But I moved to Colorado about a year ago, and the market hours shifted for me here. I was done at 2 o'clock every day. So I suddenly had 3 hours at the end of every day before my fiance got home. And that was a great amount of time to kill working on this project. So what I tried to put together, and what I'm very proud of what I have here, is a product where I spend the first few chapters just trying to approach it as if you're a beginner trader. What do you need to know? I go through a lot of the details that I had, it took me weeks to learn or months to learn, where I felt like every day for a while I was learning a new lesson or about a new regulation I hadn't been aware of. So the first few chapters are just all that basic information that I think beginners need to know, and it will hopefully make your learning curve a lot less steep than it was for me. And then the final 8 chapters of the DVD, each one is going to focus around a different specific trading strategy of mine. So chapter 5, for example, is buying a new stock promotion, trying to get in ahead of the crowd and just sell into a predictable spike. Chapter 6 is about buying a pattern called a multi-day breakout. Chapter 7 is about shorting these OTC pump and dumps. And then chapters 8 through 12 focus on various strategies that I've put together over the past year and a half when I started trading listed stocks more instead of the over-the-counter pump and dumps. So it really is just kind of designed. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this, but another big part of the reason I finally decided to make the DVD was because another trader had put his out back last October. And his DVD, he had the idea to put in live trading events where he would film his screen while he was making a trade. So you could see his buys and you could see his sells. And then he would do audio over it and kind of explain what his thought process was in the moment. And I think that is a huge, huge learning tool because anybody at the end of the day can make a video lesson about a stock and show you the chart. And with hindsight, say, in this point right here, the lower day is where you should have been buying. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. So I like when I had that idea to, okay, I could also film my trades. I could also put audio over them explaining what I was thinking. That was a huge motivator for me to finally get to work because I love the idea of showing people in the moment, how do I make my decisions and what fuels the way I trade.
Also, I wanted to get into some questions based around mentorship, and I mean, obviously, we know that you were mentored by Tim Sykes. So, talk to us about maybe it's the mentorship with Tim Sykes, maybe it's you had other mentors in your life, but talk to us about your mentors and how they have impacted you.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Tim Sykes and Nate Nishu, he's running a service called Investors Underground. Those were the two, I guess you could say, trading services that I felt like I learned the most from. Tim, his service was great for really teaching the beginnings, the beginner stuff, the basics, what is a pump and dump, like I said, things of that nature, and just technical analysis. I learned a ton of the basics from there. And then Nate's service, I felt like reading Nate's watch lists every night, I would get a really good idea of trader psychology and just sort of how to think as a trader. But from neither one of them did I really get any kind of one-on-one attention. That really wasn't something that was part of the services. It was, they'll put out a video lesson for all of their members, and then you watch that video lesson or you don't. The one person I can think of who I really had the most one-on-one interaction with, and who probably made the biggest difference to me trading, especially in my early days, was a moderator in Tim Sykes' chat room by the name of Michael Good. And Michael Good was one of those traders where in the chat room he would post his plays, he would see where he succeeded, he would see where he failed, and I would ask him questions, and I would try to understand why, like how did he know to buy there, how did he know to sell there, and really he's the person I got the most one-on-one advice from, and he's the one who kind of got me into the idea of, okay, I do need to get a level 2 feed, I do need to figure out how to get my email addresses subscribed to these promoters so I get emails the fastest. And I can, buy the early promotion and sell into the predictable spike, which was probably one of the biggest growing factors of my account in the first 6 months to year. So if anyone really was a mentor to me, it was him, and I'm always incredibly grateful to him.
So now being in a position where you're putting out your own DVD and you be a mentor to other people. How important do you think it is to be a mentor once you've reached that certain level of success that you've had?
I do think it's really important. It's very important to give back. It's very important to help other traders who are now in the place where you once were. I mean, everyone in the market, I think they start from the same place. Nobody really starts with all kinds of crazy insider knowledge. So everyone's a beginner at some point. Everybody's going to go through those growing pains. And it's very nice to try to help people through them and make the transition as painless as possible, because trading really can be a trial by fire kind of thing. And I mean, I've taken some very large losses over the past few years, and I'd love to be able to give advice or give lessons from those losses so that other traders don't have to make the same mistakes.
What advice would you have for anyone that wants to get into stock trading, and maybe looking to find a mentor?
I mean, it's definitely great to be aggressive about it and really reach out and try to get people's attention. I've been mentoring one person for the last, it must be about a year and a half at this point. And he was persistent. I'll give him that. He just hit me up on Facebook, started messaging me, and really wouldn't leave me alone. And it's great because it's turned into an awesome friendship since, and we chat almost every day about what's going on in the market. So, I mean, the first thing is you definitely have to go in. You have to show that you're passionate about it. You have to show that you're knowledgeable about it. But the biggest thing that turns me off when people reach out to me is if they're asking lazy questions. I hate questions where people are asking for a hot stock pick. I hate the questions that you could answer just by doing a quick Google search. So you got to really, if you're going to reach out to somebody and ask for help, you have to show that you've done your homework.
Awesome. Well, Tim, I wanted to get into some personal questions. So what would you say is the one thing that motivates you?
I think the biggest, can I give two things?
Sure.
Because there really are two factors. The biggest motivation ever from the start with trading, like I said, I never thought I was going to be a millionaire, especially not this fast. The goal was freedom. I did not want to be a 9-to-5 job with a boss in an office. I really wanted to just have the ability to do what I wanted when I wanted. And it's kind of funny now because I still treat this so much like a business, and I really am, in almost the exact same situation where I am in front of the computer every day. But just the freedom to be able to live where I want, to take a day off if I want to here and there, that's fantastic. But the other motivating factor, and what keeps me going now, even after I've had all the success, is probably my fiance and the future family we plan to have together. I'm just thinking about wanting to have my family in a nice, comfortable financial situation. I want to be able to send my kids to a good school. I just, I want to be able to provide. And so that is really what just keeps driving me, even when I could definitely take my foot off the gas at this point and just sort of sit back and relax.
What regrets do you have?
There are a couple. I do regret not getting into trading a little bit sooner, but at the same time, I think that having to go through the gambling failures and seeing that was really a way to make a living, that was a necessary lesson for me. So there is a part of me that wishes I had started sooner and wishes I hadn't missed out on certain plays that were present in the market back then. But again, with where I've wound up, it's hard to complain. Any other regrets I have, they're probably just around horrible trades, bad lessons. I think that, like I said, I've taken a couple losses. I took a $290,000 loss last October, and that was just purely stubbornness. It was failure to cut a loss. It was a trade that originally I was up $3,000 on, and then suddenly the trade was break even, and I didn't want to take it off for break even because I had just been up on it. And then I was down $10,000, and I didn't want to take a $10,000 loss because I had just been break even, and I just let it spiral out of control on me. And I mean, again, that's a very hard lesson. That's a lesson that I think most traders are going to learn at least once. They're going to take that big loss and learn that you can't hold stubborn losers. But then I don't mind making that mistake once, but I've done it a couple times since then where I've taken losses that weren't quite that bad, but still just large losses, just completely due to stubbornness, failure to follow my rules, failure to take off when I should take off. And I think I definitely regret those losses because the first time it's a mistake, the second time and beyond is the thing. I heard.
So we kind of talked about this, or you kind of mentioned this earlier in our conversation, but what do you think is the key behind your success thus far?
Yeah, like I said, I do think that a big part of it is that I am able to adapt and learn from my mistakes. In that example I just gave, I still have made the same mistake a couple more times. Another key to success for traders is the ability to keep kind of level emotions. This was part of the reason I struggled early, is because my emotions were all over the place. I would get into a trade and my heart rate would go way up. I'd get shaky. Like it'd be like just that fear of suddenly having money on the line. And that took a long time to get over. But it's one of the things that experience did. And then also I started hiding some of the columns of my broker that showed me how much I was up or down in the trade, because not having that dollar amount staring me in the face really helped mentally, because then I was focusing on the chart instead of on the money. But emotions are one of the hardest things for traders to control. And that's, like I said, with my big losses, that's a big part of the reason that those big losses happen, is because you get down a large amount of money, or you get down an amount that you don't want to cut. And then suddenly you just decide, okay, I'll just be stubborn. I'll just stick with it. And hopefully it works out. And maybe 9 out of 10 times it works out, but the one time it doesn't work out, you get crushed. Otherwise, I think one last factor would be just the ability to make quick decisions, because seconds matter, especially for a day trader. Seconds can make a huge difference. So you've got to, and again, it's something you develop over time. It's not something you're going to be great at right when you start, but to get some instincts to be able to, very quickly decide, am I going to stay in this position? Or am I going to cut this loss here? That's how you can keep positions from spiraling out of control, is making those snap decisions.
So you mentioned that you're looking to start a family soon, and you have a fiance. What would you say are some of your other important goals that you have for the future of your life?
Well, it's funny. Like I'm not one of those guys with like a 5-year plan or 10-year plan, but I do want to find ways to keep giving back. It's really funny because one thing I always joke about with my parents, or especially with my mom, when I first started experiencing success trading, was she was saying, "Oh, what are you gonna do with all this money? What are you gonna do with all this money?" And I grew up in a family that always had cats. I think we always had at least 4 cats in our house, and so it kind of became a joke along the way of like, "Oh, okay, use all this money to start a cat shelter." And so something like that, that's always been in my mind. And, right now at 26 and still kind of bouncing around where I'm living and all that, it's kind of hard to think about doing that right now. But it's definitely a goal for my future at this point, is once I've settled down a bit and have some roots set down, and I know that my family is financially okay, I want to go ahead and maybe start up that animal shelter, whether it be specifically for cats or other animals, and just try to run some kind of a non-for-profit thing. Because I've been in cities where I've seen organizations like that, and I've been very impressed with what I've seen. I'd love to be behind something like that as well.
That's awesome. I'm actually a big animal lover myself, so I like that a lot. So, Tim, in an attempt to inspire the Mentor Me community, tell us how it feels to be a successful entrepreneur or stock trader.
Yeah, that's funny. You sent me that question, and that's the one I have the hardest time answering, how it feels. But I mean, obviously it feels good. It's really nice to have that freedom I wanted. I met my fiance in Columbus, Ohio, and she's finishing up her doctorate. And to finish her doctorate, the last year of school, she had to move out to Colorado to do basically a full-time internship. So that freedom to be able to just pack up and move with her and say, okay, let's do this, and not have to worry about leaving a job or anything like that, that is just so huge to me. And that is really one of the biggest things I think I get from trading is just that freedom is what I've always craved and what I love.
Awesome. Well, Tim, just to wrap up, I got one last question for you.
Sure.
If you had an aspiring stock trader in front of you right now that cannot seem to get anything working and is continuously failing, what would you say to him or her?
I would tell them not to give up. I would tell them that they absolutely have to track their trades. They need to understand which setups do they succeed with, what setups do they fail with. That was a huge turnaround point for me because back when I first started trading, I wasn't succeeding. I was like everybody else. I was losing money. And I was going through my trades and I started to figure out that there were really only two setups that I was at all good at. And really they were the ones that I felt the most comfortable with too. So I cut out everything else. You need to figure out where you succeed. And when you're trying to grow that account in the early stages, just ignore everything else except for the setups that you're successful with. Because yes, you're going to miss a lot of other stuff and it can be tough being in that trading chat room or being on Twitter and seeing people talking about that huge win that they had that you missed. But there'll be time for that later. I slowly added to my arsenal as I developed as a trader. I would just add one setup at a time. But early on, what grew my account was the fact that I could look at my trades, I could be honest with myself, and I could say, here's where I'm succeeding, here's where I'm failing, and then only focus on successful areas for a while.
Awesome. Well, Tim, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. So just let us know the best way we can find you or contact you online.
Sure. Yeah. I have my free blog, tradetheticker.blogspot.com, and I try to keep updating that. I've been a little slow at it lately because of the DVD, but I do want to get back to blogging more. Also, you can find me on Twitter at KroyRunner89. That's KROY Runner89. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, you can email me at tradetheticker@gmail.com.
Awesome. And I will post the links to your Twitter and to your blog on the show notes page for the episode. And again, Tim, thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So that's going to do it for today's episode of the Mentor Me podcast. Everything you'd like to know about today's guest, plus the resources and links we did talk about, can be found at a page we create especially for this episode. Just go to mentormepodcast.com/the number of the episode. I thank you for listening. This is the People's Podcaster, Eric Scaberis, signing off.
My name is Tim Sykes, and I teach people to trade stocks. I am a self-made multimillionaire.
So this is the ideal trade that I'm going to talk about. I want you guys to understand every single aspect of this trade.